Many of us remember our favorite things at Grandma's house, right? Maybe it's a certain pie plate, Christmas ornaments, maybe Grandpa's hat. Often they aren't worth much money, but they hold high sentimental value. Now consider being on the other end, the Nana or Papa with precious treasures your own grandkids love. How do you evaluate what that stuff means to your loved ones, and how will you pass them down? Teresa Hunsaker is here to share a few thoughtful ideas. It's so great to see you.
Thank you.
And I understand you have a personal story from your own grandma.
I do, and I hope I don't cry.
I know, tissues on hand.
Oh my goodness. You think about this, the impact that a grandparent has on a grandchild, but do you think about the impact that a grandchild has on a grandparent, right? It goes both ways. So many years ago, when my grandmother passed away, I was given a box, and I don't mean just a little box, a box. And my grandmother had bundled all of the letters that I had been writing to her through the years.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and I have those, they're all bundled up by years, and they just kind of act as a journal for me to add to the journals that I've kept through the years.
She saved
But
those.
Is that sweet?
That's amazing.
That is so sweet, but you want to know the sad part of that?
What's that?
I didn't keep her letters, and I am just sick that I didn't do that. I have some of the selective ones. Anyway,
what a treasure, though. What a treasure. And I understand that she earmarked some items to go to certain family members.
Yes. So one of the things that will always be part of the discussion is, do I give things away while I'm still alive? And being a new grandmother, now, for me, I think about some of this stuff. And I have to show you, in her earmarking, she had done something on the back of a picture. But this is a little note that my grandmother, this is the actual note that my grandmother had written to me that told me what I was going to get and where it came from. So kind of the story behind it.
Oh my goodness.
Is that the cutest thing ever?
That's amazing.
Yeah, so as grandkids, we got little items, and then we were told where those items
the backstory,
yes,
the meaning, the purpose.
Yep.
The purpose. And at some point, we'll all be on the giving end of these treasures. And you talk about, do I give them now? Do I save them? What's your guidance on that question?
I've got a few things to consider and kind of keep in mind.
Yeah.
First off, recognize that this is going to be a sensitive topic. Like, what is fair? What is equal? Who gets what? Is going to be sensitive.
Because different things mean different things, different weights to different people, but at the same time, there's going to be those items that mean something to everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some of those be one of a kind, right? So then the second thing that you'll need to consider are, what are the grandkids and the kids drawn to? Like their life passion, not just maybe an object, a book, or you know, whatever, but even their passion. If they love music, then maybe it would make sense that that violin playing grandchild gets the violin that you've had all these years, right?
Interest to interest. And you say it's smart to make a list now, beyond what's happening with the estate or the financials, but to start to make a list of these invaluable items.
Yes, absolutely. And as part of that list, have the stories go with it. I think that that's really critical as well. And then the fourth thing is, talk to other people. What do they do? What have they done? What have you seen? What have been the consequences, the pros and the cons? All really, really critical in this process to gather information as you're kind of considering these items to be passed on. We all have a legacy, right? We really do. And most people will say, oh, I was just, and they minimize their life. But really and truly, there's so much there. And so we want to ask other people, how did they pass that along? And then the last thing is to have family discussions. Have discussions the whole way through.
And this circles back to point number one. It can be sensitive. It can be hard. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really is. But boy, you can get a lot of ideas from them in these family discussions. And you can talk about the meaning. You can talk about the stories. You can talk about the reasons as a Nana why I want some things, to preserve memories, to preserve relationships. You know, those are my desires.
And I'm thinking of, you know, the handful of small, meaningful items to me that I inherited from my grandma. And it happened in a family discussion after she had passed. And they still mean so much. But I'm thinking, I'm considering if she would have given those to me, and like, you know, your grandma did, or noted down, explained why, and explained the story behind. I think that just, I don't want to say adds to the meaning, because those items are still very meaningful, but it adds to the connection, I think, to those items.
It really does. And there's a great quote about the stories that go with and how important that is by Lyman Hafen.
We have this quote: "It is the stories which assure us that we belong here." And it's the stories, all of our stories combined, that bind us to each other and connect us not only to the past, but to the future, and carry us there with hope. What a beautiful collection of words toward this sensitive topic.
Isn't it? It is lovely. And that's kind of been my mantra as I think about, even while my grandbabies are just young, right? And so what legacy, what stories, and how does that connect me to my child and grandchild?
You had a great solution come out of your own family that stemmed from that family discussion you recommend.
Yeah, one of the things that was a big concern were the one-of-a-kind paintings or pieces of jewelry or, you know, whatever. So can we duplicate those in some way? And technology is beautiful, and one of those is a family picture that an artist has done that. Yes, we have the original, but you know, with technology now, you can get copies that look exactly the same. And so if I don't really care that it's the original, but it's the beauty of the picture and all that it reminds me of, then I get a copy of that too.
Which, guess what, because originality only speaks to cost, and it's not the cost. It shouldn't be with these items. So to have a duplication or a replication is just as great. Oh, I love that solution. Teresa, thank you for taking on this solution so sensitively, this topic rather, and providing such great solutions. Those are good things to consider as the giver of family heirlooms. Teresa also has tips for family members trying to distribute those items after a loved one dies. She'll share those a little bit later in the show. Thanks again. Welcome back into Studio 5. Teresa Hunsaker is joining me once again to talk about how to pass down family treasures. And earlier in the show, we looked at this from a giving point of view, what to think about in the later stages of life. But we also have to think about the receiving side, because this is where things can get really tricky when you're trying to divide up or hand out, gift out Grandma and Grandpa's precious things.
Yeah, it really does,
it's
sadly.
Sensitive.
And it causes family feelings and, all of those kinds of things. So we do want to be cognizant of both sides, as a giver and as a receiver, and consider maybe one of the very first ways to do this is to literally put together this distribution list. Not just what the item is, but how am I going to distribute it?
This is the family after someone's passed away. Okay.
Right, exactly. So we would have maybe a discussion, but then what does this list look like? It might contain a list of exact items and then the distribution, and then is it going to be part of maybe a legally binding portion of your will or estate plan or trust, that kind of thing. Because if I have it written down as a distribution list and it is part of my will, it is legally binding, and so it can be followed that way, which does help with some of the feelings when it's already been identified. So that's one of the first ones.
Okay, what do we do with that list from there?
From there, then, it would be used as part of the review of the estate at the time of death, so that the family, one, would have seen what it was going to consist of beforehand. I would know, if I had been, you know, the one receiving, what had been communicated by my grandma or my grandfather, whatever, that they wanted me to receive, right?
Can I ask what feels like a really insensitive question, but knowing it might come up with the family dynamics and sensitivities you described, are we putting value with these items, like monetary value?
Sometimes we do, and that's one of the ways that we distribute, is that everybody gets an equal, if you can, way in terms of a dollar amount. So if it's you know, a specific dollar, then everybody gets that. But this is, maybe it's only going to be one item that I get because it is the
big item.
Maximum.
So then it comes down to this kind of drawing of sorts, right?
So that's another way that some families will do it. They'll have some kind of drawing of lots, whether it's straws or whether it's numbers or whether it's starting with the oldest and they pick something and, you know, go down to the youngest, then they start at the youngest and pick something and go back up. So there's so many different ways, and that actually has been a positive way for many families to do this. And again, one method isn't maybe the perfect for every single thing. I might have a number of distribution options for different items.
Yeah, sure. You've heard of families that actually turn it into a little auction of sorts using Monopoly money?
Yes, it's so cute. And I have had great success in some of the classes that I've taught in the past from families who have done that. And it is, they get 10,000 Monopoly dollars, right? And then they auction, and it's hilarious. It's fun.
I actually like kind of that juxtaposition of emotion where it is such a sensitive, sad, you know, time, and you can maybe lighten it up and make it a family moment or a family memory. There is a national program, you say, that speaks to this topic and might be a good resource for people.
A great resource is Who Gets Grandmother's Yellow Pie Plate? And they have a workbook, and they have worksheets, and they have a list of ideas. And this is a nationally known extension program across the country. Who Gets Grandma's Yellow Pie Plate?
Well, thank you for the ideas, and thanks for the resources, Teresa. We appreciate it. It's a topic we'll all encounter at one point or the other, so glad to have that information.